president can't get
And leaders shaking hands right in front of the Great Hall of the World.
just that. Day one of 2 days of leaders come. The welcoming ceremony will take place over the next 7 minutes. The two men will then adjourn to a bilateral meeting to discuss several things. The future of AI, what is happening with the war in Iran, with China taking in almost 50% of its exported oil from the Strait of Hormuz. That is high on the minds of both President Trump and Xi Jinping. Also, what to do with the future of Taiwan. Of course, Taiwan, major implications for both countries. The president has not yet voted on the sales to Taiwan. The Democrats want to see happen, and China does not want to see that happen. So, here, talk about you.
头等无下，中国人民解放军仪仗队列队完毕，请您检阅。
U.S. travel your way down from the road. Goodbye.
Follow, please. 咱们一块点一点啊。
And seeing Chinese President Xi Jinping welcoming President Trump and other administration officials to Beijing as part of the state visit. The two leaders will be holding a bilateral meeting shortly and will return with the live coverage of their meeting here on C-SPAN.
Welcome back to Washington Journal. We're joined now by Representative Johnny Olszewski. He is a Democrat from Maryland and serves on the Foreign Affairs Committee and the Small Business Committee. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me again.
Okay, so let's start with foreign affairs. We just saw the president has arrived in China for his meeting with President Xi Jinping. Can you first characterize for us what you think the relationship now between the United States and China is at this present moment?
You know, for me, this is a relationship where the United States has gotten very soft on China. And we see it with a president who is very comfortable letting China have some of our most advanced chip programs, selling those advanced chips to China. President who I think could do a better job of standing up for our partner, Taiwan. And more importantly, and I led floor debate on this yesterday, you think about the human rights abuses in China. You think about the Uyghurs, you think about some of the political prisoners that are happening and being held there, and the human rights abuses in China. I really want to see President Trump use this opportunity to stand up against those abuses and to really be a voice of moral clarity during his trip.
And this, you mentioned the chips first. Mm-hmm. Did you see that Jensen Huang was on the plane with, he's joining the president on this trip. He's the CEO of NVIDIA. And it's those NVIDIA chips that are being now sold to China.
I had not seen that reporting yet, but what I can tell you is, I mean, I think that speaks to the concern. When we are giving the most advanced chips to one of our adversaries, someone who we've gotten reports that at least indirectly they're helping Iran in this fight, it's deeply concerning when some of the most advanced technology that is available is being facilitated by this president and by this country. This
meeting between the two leaders has been was rescheduled from earlier. Do you think that the president is in a stronger position with China now or a weaker position as a result of the conflict in Iran?
I think unequivocally the president is in a much weaker position as a result of the conflict and the war in Iran. Iran now has a new tool and asset in the Strait of Hormuz that they didn't even realize they had in terms of an economic and military tool that they are happy to deploy against not just the United States but the world. And so you think about what's happening with gas prices and the ways in which Americans are being pinched at the pump. You think about the costs going up, the inflationary rates that people are experiencing. America is in a weaker position generally, but specifically as it relates to our interactions with China. And I'm sure that will influence the conversations while he's over there.
And regarding the relationship with Taiwan and U.S. policy vis-a-vis that island nation, the policy has always been strategic ambiguity when it comes to Taiwan. Do you think that should still be the policy? What do you think the president should do on Taiwan specifically?
I think the policy is a right one, but we have to make sure that the president doesn't soften on that position. And what I've seen, at least in my short tenure on the Foreign Affairs Committee, is that Chinese aggression is real. It's happening all over the world. And we have an administration and a president who, rather than meet that aggression, both domestically and internationally. It is someone who's almost embracing the fact that China is doing that and taking this soft approach, again, whether it's with the advanced chips, fighting a tariff war that no one actually wins, but really, and not having that moral clarity and those voices on those human rights abuses and those political prisoners.
So the Associated Press is reporting that President Trump has authorized an $11 billion arms package for Taiwan. That was in December, but has not moved forward with delivery of those weapons.
Yeah, I mean, the defense of Taiwan is a really important strategic action, not just for Taiwan, but for the international community. And so I think it's really important that the president move forward. It is, if Taiwan were to fall and some of the manufacturing there of the products that they produce, that would have devastating impacts, not just for Americans, but for the international community as well.
Representative Johnny Olszewski is with us. He is a Democrat from Maryland. And if you'd like to talk to him, you can call now. Democrats are on 202-748-8000, Republicans 202-748-8001, and Independents 202-748-8002. Yesterday, Defense Secretary Hegseth was on the Hill. He told a House Appropriations Committee that the plan is to escalate the war if necessary, and the Pentagon has raised that overall cost so far to $29 billion. That's 9 weeks into the conflict. First, do you believe that figure? Do you believe it's been $29 billion?
It's hard to believe anything this administration says. They lie about so much. They've lied about the cost of the ballroom. They've lied about whether or not this was an imminent threat in terms of our war with Iran. The president has lied about lowering costs on day one. He's lied about releasing the Epstein files. So I find it hard, without any sort of verifiable proof, to trust anything this administration is putting forward, including that number.
So what can Democrats do? You are not in power in either house. What, if you're opposed to the war, which I assume that you are, what can you do about it?
Well, I hope that my Republican colleagues will join us in saying we are now beyond that flexibility that the president and that many of them had said that the administration needs in conducting operations. We're well beyond the 60-day war powers.
Just had an extremely active run and bundle into this room. We can now see the leader's name.
You gotta do something. Keep quiet.
做一个致辞，然后请总统先生再做一个致辞。尊敬的特朗普总统先生，很高兴同你在北京见面。这是你时隔9年再次访华，我们的会面现在可以说是举世瞩目。当前百年变局加速演进，国际形势是变了口，这是世界走到新的十字路口。中美两国能不能跨越所谓的修昔底德陷阱，开创大国关系的新范式？能不能携手应对全球挑战，为世界注入更多的稳定性？能不能照应两国人民的福祉和人类前途命运，共同开创两国关系的美好未来？这些可以说是历史之问、世界之问、人民之问，也是我同您作为大国领导人需要共同书写的时代大卷。今年是美国独立250周年，我向你和美国人民表示祝贺。我始终认为，中美之间的共同利益大于分歧。中美各自成功是彼此的机遇，中美关系稳定是世界的利益。双方合则两利，斗则俱伤，应当做伙伴而不是对手。 相互成就，共同繁荣，走出一条新时代大国正确相处之道。我期待着同总统先生就事关两国和世界的重大问题交换意见，共同为中美关系这艘大船领好航、掌好舵，让2026年成为中美关系继往开来的历史性、标志性年份。我就先说这么多，请总统先生讲。
President, thank you.
Well, President Xi, I want to thank you very much. First of all, that was an honor like few have ever seen before. And I think I was particularly impressed by those children. They were happy. They were beautiful. The military is obvious. It couldn't be better, but those children were amazing, and they represent so much. And I know they represent so much to you. You and I have known each other now for a long time. In fact, the longest relationship of our two countries that any president and president has had. And it's, to me, an honor. We've had a fantastic relationship. We've gotten along. When there were difficulties, we worked it out. I would call you, and you would call me. And whenever we had a problem, people don't know, whenever we had a problem, we worked it out very quickly. And we're going to have a fantastic future together. Such respect for China, the job you've done. You're a great leader. I say it to everybody, you're a great leader. Sometimes people don't like me saying it, but I say it anyway because it's true. I only say the truth. And I just want to say, on behalf of all of the great delegation that we have the greatest businessmen, the biggest, and I guess the best in the world. We have amazing people, and they're all with me. Every single one of them, we asked the top 30 in the world, every single one of them said yes. And I didn't want the second or the third in the company. I wanted only the top. And they're here today to pay respects to you and to China. And they look forward to trade and doing business. And it's going to be totally reciprocal on our behalf. So I really look very much forward to our discussion. It's a big discussion. There are those that say this is maybe the biggest summit ever. They can never remember anything like it. I can say in the United States, people aren't talking about anything else. But it's an honor to be with you. It's an honor to be your friend. And the relationship between China and the USA is going to be better than ever before. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let's go. It's gonna come down. Okay.
You're watching C-SPAN, Democracy Unfiltered. C-SPAN brings you Democracy Unfiltered in real time. Democracy doesn't take sides, neither does C-SPAN. In a world full of opinions, C-SPAN gives you direct access to the people and institutions that shape our nation. Unfiltered coverage of Congress as laws are debated and decided. Live proceedings from the United States Supreme Court, presidential speeches, briefings, and historic moments as they happen. No commentary, no spin, no agenda. Just the democratic process presented in full.